men and women, of course, that have been putting in ridiculous hours up there to try and get everything under control. Andy Iskoe, of course, is always with me on Thursday nights, and we've got a special guest, Cindy McCoy. We're going to talk a little roller derby for you old school folks. Again, back in the day, that was one of the biggest things, Andy Iskoe, growing up back in Jersey, and of course, you're a Long Island boy. Couldn't wait for that Saturday morning to get WOR and watch the, didn't matter if it was the men's, the women's, roller derby. It was all about roller derby.
And it didn't matter that TV sets only came in black and white in those days. It was still fun to watch. The roller derby. Used to watch the wrestling on Saturdays and all the other sports that we grew up with back before all the networks took over.
How about Bowling for Dollars with Bob Murphy, the Mets?
I was on that show as a kid.
Were you?
I was on from, I think we did it in Madison Square Garden bowling lanes.
There you go, Andy Iskoe. Now, good bowler?
I was a better bowler when I was a kid than I am today.
Okay, because Tina's back at the studio, and we know she's ambidextrous, and she's dynamite, and she's bowled 5 or 6 300 games, and she's got a young lady that's coming out here, I think. The gal, I think she's 12 years old, and Tina will clue me in on the next break and let me know, but we're supposed to go at it head-to-head, me and you against Tina and this young lady. I think we're in a lot of trouble here, unless you can resurrect the old Bowling for Dollars, Andy Iskoe.
I'm going to bet on the gals.
Are you? You're sandbagging? You're sandbagging.
No.
You're that bad.
I'm going to give it my best.
Oh, man. We're in trouble.
But my best may not be good enough.
That's, I guarantee. If it's not good enough, Andy Iskoe, then we're in a lot of trouble because All-Star break, of course, is coming up. And how about last Friday?
I actually did pretty well, but my downfall in bowling was usually around the 5th or 6th frame when I just had to have another helping of tater tots.
There you go, the tater tot frame. Those will get you every time, especially for the Long Island boys. But how about my pal Chuck Edel on his way to Orlando, Florida, tying the knot on Monday?
Shotgun wedding?
Yeah, more or less. I would think it's probably a shotgun wedding because, once you go back there and you kind of look the dad in the eye the second time when you go to Orlando and, I got this. We're good. We're going to take care of it.
So dad puts the shotgun down and all is fine.
All of a sudden, about a year and a half later, then you're going back to Orlando and it's like, you haven't done anything.
Well, I think Chuck deserves some congratulations.
Well, of course he does. And, of course, Chuck is the same age as Rebecca's dad. So it's kind of like...
let's not go there.
It's classic. All right, let's welcome...
I don't know what the Florida laws are, but I'd be very careful of her.
She's all right. She's 32. She's good to go. All right, let's welcome in our guest, our special guest, Cindy McCoy, rookie roller derby queen. And what a great picture. This is a really neat book. But, what a great picture with the bow and the hair and just, Cindy, I got to tell you, I know there were different leagues as far as, roller derby and everything going on back in the day. And you started out, you were, I guess, a legend. Here's the whole thing, because I never got to see you. And that's what bums me out, is that I never actually got to see you in person, growing up, because I really loved roller derby. And my sisters, too. That was the one sport where my sisters would say, you know what? It's okay if you have sports on, if it's roller derby, because they loved it too. It was one of those sports, and you loved it, and you're watching the old, whipping them around and grabbing and going under the legs and all these different things, and then taking people out. And we talk about hockey, with the checking and all these things that are legal, and of course, to a point, and there's penalties and whatnot. But I remember roller derby, just watching and sometimes, being ticked off, and you'd be like, God, how could they let them go around? How could they let them get that power play or whatever? And it was classic. But this is something that you made a living doing this, and you are a legend, and we welcome you to Sports X Radio, Cindy McCoy.
Thank you very much.
Oh, hold on. Let me get that up there. Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here with you and Andy this evening. This is just fantastic for me.
All right, Cindy, let's go. Real quick, I just want to update everybody, because if I don't get the gamblers out there, if I don't get them their scores, they're gonna say, come on, Thompson, before you talk to any of the guests, make sure you get us our scores from the Findlay Toyota out-of-town scoreboard. Orioles 3-1 over the Rangers, the final. Same score, Phillies over the Nationals 3-1. Blue Jays, they lose at Cleveland 4-2. Braves 6-5 right now, top 9. Cincinnati, Jimmy Dallas's Reds still have a chance. It is 6-5 in the top of the 9th in Atlanta. Rays took care of the Twins. How about the Rays? They're taking care of business. 8 straight wins, 53-40 now. Tampa Bay look out. They're probably the team to beat in the American League, according to me. I don't know. I'm going to get Andy Isko's opinion on that later on. Cubs leading the Cardinals 3-0, and I've got a good buddy that's got a lot of money on Edwin Jackson tonight at a good plus price. Also, the Yankees doubled up on the Royals 8-4. That's a final. Brewers lead the Diamondbacks right now 2-0. That game in Arizona. That is in the bottom half of the second inning. Yevgeny Gallardo has pitched very well of late. Top of the first, Rockies and Dodgers just underway. Red Sox, they knocked off the Mariners 8-7 at Safeco. That was in 10 innings. Giants and Padres underway as well at Safeco. Andy Isko, you might have some up-to-date scores. White Sox also doubled up on the Tigers as Sale beat Sanchez. Reed got his 23rd save. Aza and Fegley went deep, and Cabrera hit his 30th. Andy Isko, are we going to see back-to-back Triple Crown performances by Miguel Cabrera?
It's starting to look like it's a real possibility, and I wouldn't be surprised if some book in town, some enterprising book in town, puts up a line on whether or not Cabrera will win a second straight Triple Crown, because he's certainly in position to do so. Chris Davis had another home run tonight. I think Cabrera, I don't think he had a home run earlier today. He had a couple of hits to drive in runs, but
He
certainly
did. He hit his 30th.
Okay, so it's 30-33, I believe.
No, 34 if let's see, if Baltimore, Davis got his 34th. Okay, so Davis hit his 34th, and Cabrera hit his 30th. So unbelievable, though. I mean, here we haven't seen a Triple Crown since 1967. Yaz, of course, and then Miggy does it last year, and now he's right there. He's blowing away the batting title.
If I recall, the last time we had a Triple Crown, wasn't it back-to-back? Didn't Frank Robinson do it?
In 66 and Yaz in 67.
So
call.
We may have it back-to-back again, but this time by the same player.
Unbelievable. It is classic. Real quick, before we resume our conversation with Cindy McCoy, and she's going to be here for the next 45 minutes. So looking forward to getting you folks acclimated with roller derby. If you never grew up with the sport, or you have no clue what we're talking about, Cindy's going to inform you and let everybody know how she got into this crazy sport, which, again, it was something that we just admired the people. First off, because I could never roller skate worth a darn. It's something that my sisters were all good roller skaters, and I remember, Andy Isko, that they would have, skating night, like at the roller skating rink and stuff. And I was the worst, and so I always came up with an excuse why I couldn't go. And me and my buddies would go, and we'd, ditch out, and we'd go somewhere out back.
But that's why it was such a popular sport back then, because everybody participated. It was a sport you could identify with. It's sort of like we talk so often why hockey isn't as popular here in the United States, because as you're a kid growing up, the vast majority of kids don't play hockey. It requires a lot of expenses, a lot of equipment, etc. But with roller derby, it's just sort of like an advanced form of roller skating in an organized, structured way. And I think it's from a simpler time, but a very enjoyable time.
Cindy, that's a good point, because as we look back, I remember street hockey was pretty big, and of course, I was not the best ice skater, but as far as street hockey, I was pretty good. I had a good glove, so they usually threw me in the goal.
You had good elbows too.
It was like, here's the mask, here's the Freddy Krueger mask, get in goal, and you just stop the puck. That was basically, or of course there were different versions. You either had the tennis ball or a rubber ball, or you had the puck, the street hockey puck, and that was always fun. But Cindy McCoy, tell us a little bit about how you got going as far as roller derby, because again, roller skating, back when my mom was growing up, like in the 50s, and that was a big thing. You had the skirts, and you had the and again, you got the bow right there on the hair on the hair there. Hell on Wheels is the book, the incredible story of rookie roller derby queen Cindy McCoy. And when you see the picture on this book, and we're going to get it up there, we're going to tweet it, and we're also going to get it up on the website tomorrow. But again, I'm going to read the book and get Cindy back on after I read the book. But I mean, this was big time when you were growing up.
Yes, it was. And I started out on the flat track, doing the dancing, the twirling. On every Saturday, we went down and went skating. And my mother and I moved to L.A., and we went to one of the roller games down there, and I fell in love with it. They had an advertisement in the bulletin, the little gazette that you got, and I pleaded and begged with her to let me go try out for the training school, and that's where I started.
All right, there you go, because my daughter right now, I mean, I coached her for 4 years, from the time she was 4 till she was 8, as far as soccer, but now it's cheerleading. That's what she wants to get into. So I'm like, her mom and I, we don't care. Whatever she wants to do, we're going to back it, because it's her life. It's not our life. And, of course, being the coach, I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever it is you want to do, just push it. How did now brothers, sisters? I mean, who got you involved as far as that background as far as wanting to compete?
I've always wanted to compete, and my sister had cerebral palsy, so my mother was always real busy with her, so I had to invent things and entertain myself a lot. And I developed an independent competitive mode, and I always resented it because we couldn't compete in the same sports that boys got to play, and I thought that was terribly unfair. So when I saw roller derby, roller games, I thought, this is my thing to do.
Andy Isco, as we look now, how the X Games and all these different sports that we had no clue about, and really, if it wasn't a ball bouncing, if it wasn't basketball or baseball or football or hockey, anything outside, even skateboarding and stuff, it's kind of like, well, yeah, those guys are, we respect that, but we really never got into it. Now the X Games have come up, and they're huge. But back in the day, roller derby was big for us.
Well, it was, but I mean, I think Cindy brings up a good point. I think that as kids, certainly back then, because we didn't have the video games and the computers, we were very inventive, very creative, devising our own games, coming up with our own rules, whether it be stickball, whether it be trying to pitch a tennis ball against the garage door, whether it be on skates, and see who could go quickest up and down the street, who could go quickest around the block, who could do, it was before skateboard, so you really just had the roller skates, but it was very inventive, and roller derby, I believe, grew out of that sense of, gee, how can we turn a fun activity like roller skating into a game and then into a competition?
Cindy, now you talked about you and your mom, California. Where were you originally from? Were you from on the West Coast or East Coast?
No, I'm from Colorado.
Okay.
Colorado Springs, Colorado is my hometown.
There you go. Air Force Academy right there.
Yes, that's where I graduated from high school.
Okay.
Broadmoor.
Air Academy.
Yep.
There you
And then
go.
the Broadmoor is big
Nice
down
resort.
there. Nice resort down there.
Nice
Okay.
golf course.
All right, so then you and your mom and your family, you made it out to California, and is that the initial time that you saw roller derby, or did you see it when you were in Colorado?
No, that was the first time I had ever been exposed to the roller games. And my mother and her second husband there took me to a game, and I fell in love with it. And the excitement and the adrenaline and the noise and the sound of the skates going around that track so fast, and I just the adrenaline level was there. I mean, it had my attention. I was ready to go.
Okay, now explain to our listeners out there, because we're going across anywhere from Mexico all the way up into British Columbia, roller derby. A lot of people listening, they're going, we have no clue, Thompson, what you're talking about. So that's why I'm going to let Cindy McCoy explain roller derby. And again, we'll get into how you got into the whole thing and how you moved up the echelon, into the top tier as far as competing. But talk to me a little bit about the rules, a little bit about the sport itself, its onset, because again, a lot of people have no clue what we're talking about, because this is a sport that Andy Isco and I grew up and we watched it, and it was something that was fascinating, but it has kind of disappeared, and it was big time back then, but you were the best in the business. So tell us a little bit about the sport, its inception, how everything got rolling as far as roller derby.
Okay, basically, it came about over a course of period of years, but basically what we had to have at least a minimum of 5 men and 5 women on each team, because you always had to have 5 players on the track.
Okay.
The women would skate about 12-minute period, then the men would skate their 12-minute period, and we do 8 periods. You do you'd have a halftime intermission. The men and women each skate 2 12-minute seconds, then you'd have a halftime, and then you'd skate the second half. And the object of the game was to get your jammer out, and they had to lap the track, completely go around, staying on the track, and you had to score. The way you scored was by passing opposing members on the other team.
Passing opposing members. Now explain the scoring, because I used to, Andy, and I remember watching, and I remember, where you're watching and it's getting down and you're down by 3 points.
It was confusing at times.
It was, but then you're watching all of a sudden, and the way they grab somebody and they whip them around and they're able to get them around the outside or go under somebody's legs, whatever way you can do it. Cindy, explain the scoring, the techniques, and different things, kind of get our whole audience involved here. But the scoring and just the whole concept. I understand passing, but I mean, what was the strategy? Because a lot of people watch and they're like, is there any offensive game plan when you're going in? And of course, you guys had a pretty complex game plan.
Yes, you had a game plan because